Hi viewers, and welcome to the channel, and this is the second video of creating an animated spring in the Assembly 4 Workbench. So in our previous video we looked at creating the square washer, the bolt and the spring. In this video we're going to bring them all together into an assembly. If you like this video, please hit a like and also subscribe to the channel. I also have a Ko-Fi site where you can actually donate to my contributions to the community, and that's at ko-fi.com/mang0. Okay, so that's create the assembly. So I'm going to jump into the assembly 4. And if you haven't got this, this is available from the tools and add-on manager. And we just come down here and select our assembly 4 workbench. This only works in Freecad 0.19 and above. It's not available in 0.18. So for the assembly we create a new file, new document, and in there I'll create a new assembly 4 model, or I can go out to assembly and create a new model from there. That creates a model and a parts folder that we can add our parts into. Now it's worth pointing out at this point that it's essential that you save this file, because if I start trying to import parts into this, it's not going to work. So if I import this part here, unnamed body, bolt, and insert that, it will still stay open, and what you'll get in here is a link reference there which you don't want. So let's get rid of that. If we save this, hitting Ctrl S or just going like File Save and save it as Spring Assembly, then when we start importing our parts, we hit insert, they actually come in correctly. I'm going to cancel that because there's some other things that I need to do first. So I'm just going to come down, click on this unnamed part and remove it. So when we add parts to our assembly, we're using local coordinate systems to actually link them up. And that's what we have to do first with our parts, because when we try to import a part and select a part and insert it, we have to link them to the part assembly or other parts by a LCS, an axis, or a point. Now you can see this bolt doesn't have any of those. So we're going to create those now. So I'm going to cancel that and I can leave this in here if I so desire, because they will actually come through. But I'm just going to delete that for the time being. I just clicked on it and hit delete. What I'm going to do is jump over to my bolt, and I'm going to start adding those local coordinate systems onto this bolt. Now the local coordinate system is a way of attaching that to the assembly and to other parts in the assembly. And what will happen is the bolt will have a coordinate system attached to it, and that coordinate system can be aligned to other coordinate systems. So we can do offsets along that on the X, Y and Z, and it's just a way of basically almost like magnetizing those parts to other parts. So we're looking at our bolt assembly at the moment. Now it's important to make sure that the bolt part is selected, not the bolt body, otherwise you won't be able to add them. Let me demonstrate. So if you click bolt body and we're using this icon here, create a datum object, select this down, you can see the new coordinate system has been selected here. If I click on that, hit OK, hit OK again. Well, it looks like nothing's been added, but it's actually put it inside the body. But we don't want it inside this body because we won't be able to select it when we import it. And if I show you that now, so we save that, go over to our spring assembly, click on the model and use the import part, click on the bolt, insert, then you see that we've got no coordinate systems in here. That's one thing to look out for. If you've added a coordinate system to your part and it doesn't appear here, it means it's not in the correct place. It might either be embedded in the body or somewhere else, and you need to move that outside. The minute we do move that outside on the bolt, so LCS, and just place it in the bolt there, let's move it up a level to hide our body. Then even without saving that, we go over to the assembly and go down to our bolt, open it up, and you can see the LCS is sitting now there. If I got rid of the part and imported the part again, you can see the LCS is now available and ready for us to use. Even though we haven't saved the bolt, still unsaved, that gets pulled through. So at the moment, though I've dumped an LCS on there, but I haven't attached it up in the bolt itself. So I'm just going to cancel that, and we're just going to delete this again. You don't have to delete it, but I just want to show you a few things in there. So with this bolt, we're going to add an LCS system. So I'll just delete that old one. I'm going to start by adding the LCS system, so new coolant system. And this coolant system is going to sit at the crown of the bolt. So it'll probably sit just underneath the top of this bolt. And it'll be the part that connects to the spring, or seems like it connects to the spring. So I'm just going to leave that as LCS1 for the time being. You can see where it's placed. It's placed it down here. Now if I spin this around, and that's in the center of that point there. So it's actually deactivated. It's not actually on this part, but it's in the actual scene. So we want to place this somewhere where it's going to be useful. So I'm going to place it in this ring here. And the reason being, so this circle here, and the reason being is that when my spring sits on here, this is going to be coming in contact with the spring, and it's going to seem like this is connecting to the spring. Now at the moment still it says it's deactivated, and it's got on pad 00 on edge 4, which is that one there, and I'm going to go concentric. Now you can just see, if you look carefully, it's gone now, there it is. So if we zoom in, trying to see it, there we go. So if we zoom out, you can see the coolant system sitting there. As we move out, it grows bigger if we move in. So that's actually inside there. Now, to be able to see that correctly, I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to go to the bolt body. And I'm going to make that transparent. So I'm going to go to View. I'm going to change the transparency of this so we can actually see inside it. So go down to transparency on your view, on your properties, and we will increase that. So that's in object style, and we'll increase the transparency so we can see inside. There we go, so you can see that coolant system sitting there inside. Another way will be actually to go out to the views, and there's different views in here. And if we look at the drawing style, then you've got wireframe, hidden line. So we go for wireframe, you can see that sitting inside there. So let's go back to our normal view. I believe it was flat lines what we had, there we go. So that's sitting inside there, and you can see that's dead center in there. So that's what we need. There's other connection styles that are there which we'll go into in this video and in other videos, and we'll talk about those. But that's dead center there. Now it's important to have a look at the coolant system and get yourself familiarized with the colors and what axis they actually point to. And as a good reference, we can use our little small handler down here. So the blue is the Z axis, the red is the X, and the green is the Y. and that comes important when we start moving and rotating this around certain axes. But for the time being, this is exactly what we want, that into the center there, connecting to this circle. So when we start matching coordinate systems, we can place coordinate systems up against this, and it will appear as though it's been stopped by the bolt head. So if we looked where that coordinate system has been placed, it's been placed inside our body because we have the body highlighted. And going back to what we said before, we don't want it there, we actually want it in the part, otherwise we wouldn't be able to import this part. So I just dragged and placed it in the bolt part. So that's the first coordinate system done for the bolt. We will now move on to the square washer. So if we look at our square washer over here, we don't have to click on the square washer here, we can just come in here and scroll down to our square washer and just double click the body. Now it'll chuck us straight into the part design, and we'll just come up into the assembly. So we're in assembly, we're in the square washer, and we need to add a coordinate system for this one. And we're going to do the same. So this time I'm going to make sure that the part is selected. And we add a coordinate system. We'll go up to assembly and new coordinate system. Sometimes this coordinate system is grayed out. And if it's grayed out and you can't find a reason why, it's best to go up to the menu system and actually find it from there. Seems to be a small bug around here. Now this is LCS 1. We're going to go for that. And this is what's going to connect the square washer to our model. We actually need two of these. One's going to connect it to our model and one's going to connect it to the spring. So we've got LCS 1 there. So okay that. Now I want to place that, if I flip this over, I want to place it in the middle of this circle. So I can do that, or I can actually select this face here. So if I select this face, and we've got internal CS there, which is fine. So that's sitting flat against that face. You can also choose the XY plane if we so desire, so you can see the flip is flipped around. The coordinate system is actually flipped around, so our blue, which is our Z-axis, goes down. And it's up to you which way you want these around. It doesn't really matter. It'll all make sense once you actually start connecting these. So I'm going to go internal CS, that's fine. I'm going to hit OK. So that's the coordinate system done for our square washer. I can save that. And what I'm going to do is get the square washer into our model. So we'll go over to the spring assembly. And before I start, I'm just going to save this to make sure it's all saved. And we're going to start importing a model. Now what normally happens when you save the model is that everything that's connected to the model, all the parts will get saved. And that's the reason why the bolt hasn't saved down here, because it's not actually in my model. I'm just going to save that bolt as well. Now you can see we've already got coordinate system sitting here. If I click on that, that shows you the LCS of the origin. And when you create a model, it automatically places a coordinate system in here. You can place many in here, but this gives you something to hang a part off of. Because when we start importing parts, we're going to actually link the coordinate systems together. So to do that, I'm going to click on the model, and I'm going to use this icon here, insert a link to a part. Or we can go up to the assembly and link a part. The first one I want is the square washer, which is this one. And we'll insert that. You'll probably notice that these names have changed, because before they was unnamed. It's because that I've actually restarted Freecad since one of the scenes in the video, because I stopped for lunch and I came back to it. So when you reload, these will actually change because we've we renamed them, and before they was unnamed. So when Freecad closed down and restarted, these were all named properly. So I'm going to insert that square washer, and you can see it's just dumped it into the middle of the scene there. Zoom in. It's actually dumped it in the right place, but the LCS systems aren't connected. So you can see that on the left hand side here we've got the square washer and the LCS. We need to select the part assembly, which is our model, and then select the LCS and the origin LCS from the part assembly, and then those two are connected. And we can rotate or rotate Y on those if we so desire. But we'll come into this when we need it shortly. So that is perfect for me. That's why I want it to be. And scroll to the top and hit OK. So now we've got our square washer in. So now to this square washer I want to add the spring. And I want to connect the square washer to this circle here. We could connect it to an edge. Depends on where the square washer will sit. So let's have a look at the spring. You can see the spring assembly is in unsafe state, and also the square washer is in unsafe state as well. So if I hit Control and S or save, it's now saying it's containing external dependencies, and I can save those too. So I hit yes, and you can see those are saved. So I'm going to look at the spring assembly now, and I'm going to attach an LCS to this. To be careful here, because this shape actually deforms. Because we have expansion and contraction of the coils, we have to have a look at a part of this that won't be affected too much by that expansion and contraction. And I'm going to go for, again, a circle here, or even this face. So we're looking at this face, because this won't deform at all, because it's a circle. So I'm going to click on the spring part, and come up to my new coordinate system on here. And I'm going to add a coordinate system. Now I'm going to be a bit more strict for my naming. I'm going to call it LCS_washer, so I know where it actually connects to, and I'm going to call it square washer because I may end up putting another washer in this scene. I'm going to hit OK. Now this is show that it's selecting, so make sure that's selecting. If it's not, just click on it, and I'm going to click on this face, and I'm going to put XY plane, internal CS, so look where those are actually being placed. So internal CS has placed that on there for me, and that's fine. So I'm going to OK that. So that's the coordinate system for this. So we've got one there, and that should connect to our washer. So I'm just going to save that, and I'm going to jump over to our washer part, and what I'm going to show you is I'm just going to zoom in and add another coordinate system to this part. And the reason being is that I want that spring to sit connected to this circle here. And if we add a coordinate system to this part, you'll see it also be reflected in our assembly. It will appear in there. So at the moment in our assembly, we can see we've only got one coordinate system in there. And clicking on our square washer, if we add another coordinate system, you can see they're not actually available at the moment. That's because I've got the pad selected. So make sure you select the part, and it's now available. Drop down, new coordinate system. And I'm going to call this LCS spring. So this actually connects to the spring. Okay, that. And I'm going to select this circle here. So the edge of that circle. And we could have it concentric. It's probably going to connect to one of these edges here. So Z tangent to an edge. So that means that the Z, if you look at the Z there, it's going up. that is tangent to that edge, so it's pointing that way, so it's connected to that edge, and that will actually do us because our spring can connect onto that. And you see it's come up as pad edge 15 there, so that will do us, that's fine. So okay that. Now even without saving, if I jump over to my spring assembly, you can see it's already there. But I'm just going to save that just in case we have any crashes in Freecad. And can go to the spring assembly, and now we're going to import our spring. So just save that assembly as well. So click on model in our spring assembly. I'm going to use the insert a linked part, or obviously from our assembly, link a part. I want the spring. We'll insert that, and what will happen is the spring will be inserted, but it's sitting over this now because we haven't actually linked the LCS system. So you can see our LCS system there, and we want to connect it to that one inside there. So if we drop the attach to, this time rather than part assembly, we want to connect it to the square washer, and we connect the LCS square washer on the spring and connect it to the LCS spring on the square washer. And you can see how that's connected, and it's really round the wrong way, but we can fix that by going down to our rotate X, rotate Y, and rotate Z. Now this is where this comes in handy. So I'm looking at rotating this around the red, which is the X. And you can see that's rotated around there. Now looking at this, it looks like my spring is a bit too big. We can also resolve that. So I'm going to connect it up first, hit OK. I'm just going to save that scene. It says this file contains external dependencies, hit yes. And I'm going to go into my spring and look at this radius. So here's the spring, and we're going to look at the spring part. I'm going to look at the helix, I'm going to look at the data, and that's where we've gone wrong. Instead of the diameter being 20, we've got the radius as 20. So I'm just going to change this to 10. You can see it's deformed at the moment, and that's because it looks like some calculations have gone wrong. I'm not quite sure what it is at the moment. So I'm going to come into the adaptive pipe, have a look at the profile sketch. I can see our sketch is right over here, so I'm going to move it closer. Now I haven't changed the diameter of that, don't really want to, so let's fix the diameter of that to something like 4, and we're just going to move that into position and close that, and that's our spring fixed. It's all fixed now. And that's just because our profile was sitting further away and it got recalculated, but it didn't go into error. Everything was fine. Our LCS is still there, which is good. So we should be set to go. I'm just going to save that again. Look at our spring assembly. So that's sitting there fine. Now we need to connect the LCSs up, because they've broken, so you see they've moved apart now. So I'm going to come into our model, which is here, come down to our spring. Now we choose the move, attach a part in the assembly, right to the assembly, and down to edit, placement of a part. And we can now reselect these and they will recalculate. So I've just clicked on that one, that's just recalculated, and we'll rotate that around the X and we'll do it around the Y as well. So it sits basically flush with that hole. Now we could, if we want to, move this out of here by translating along the green, which is the Y-axis, I believe. So we can actually move that along the Y-axis, like so. But I'm quite happy with that embedded, so it looks like it's part of this washer. So hit OK, and that's sitting there like so. So in our next video we'll start creating the variable that's going to control the spring, and also the equations that's going to keep the pitch and the height of the spring in union with each other. We're going to go through some gotchas around that area, and also start building our animation and bringing in the bolt into the assembly. And at the end of it, we'll have a working animation. That video is already up on my channel, so just click the link that's been showed on the video or in the notes below. If you like what you're seeing, please subscribe to my site, and also I have a Ko-Fi site where you can actually donate a few pence or a few pounds, dollars, or whatever your currency is, and that's at ko-fi.com/mang0, and there you'll be able to help me fund my site, and all the money that I actually get from any funds will actually get pushed back into the channel. Thanks a lot for watching and subscribing. I'll see you next time.